Good afternoon, everybody. I will just give a few seconds for people to join in, settle in before we begin the program. Again, thank you for taking this afternoon and joining us for a solemn commemoration on the Khojaly tragedy. My name is Zainab Khan, and I am the Executive Director of the Muslim American Leadership Alliance. Today, we are co-hosting this special event in partnership with the American Sephardi Federation, ASF. This is actually our third year commemorating the Khojaly tragedy. We have done this for the past 3 years to commemorate the victims of Azerbaijan's Khojaly tragedy, where over 613 lives were lost in 1992. This is an interfaith gathering of representatives of various backgrounds, organizations, local community activists. We have some incredible artists that we will be conversing with today as well, and representatives of the Azerbaijani community, so we can join hands in memory of the victims and the survivors. I want to thank ASF's Executive Director, Jason Guberman-Pfeiffer, who has always been integral Muslim-Jewish relations with Mala, and he has in the past discussed the importance of Jewish values of protection and the preservation of humanity. I also emphasize on the responsibility of genocide remembrance, given that our communities have experienced this in the past, and the need for us to share stories to prevent history from repeating itself. We have an obligation and an importance for communities to bridge together to protect facets of identity, language, culture, and origin. Today's program, as I had said, is very special because we do have two renowned artists from the Azerbaijani community that will be joining us today. Every year, Azerbaijanis bear solemn remembrance of the Khojaly Massacre, which occurred on February 26, 1992. Khojaly's impact is profoundly manifest in the lives of over 600,000 internationally displaced people forced to flee Karabakh for sanctuary in Baku, which is Azerbaijan's capital. Now, in 2021, Azerbaijans celebrated their return to Karabakh. But Khojaly remains a deep wound for Azerbaijanis, even as the joyous return to Karabakh signifies a return to family, heritage, and deep cultural roots. And our hope is that as we commemorate the lives that have been lost and hold such events in memory and remembrance, that we can reflect on Khojaly with determination to restore Karabakh's interrupted legacy. Now it is my profound honor to introduce Jason Guberman-Pfeiffer, who is the Executive Director of American Sephardi Federation. Jason, again, thank you for being such a wonderful partner and colleague and a friend to all of us.
Thank you, Zainab, for your warm welcome and for Mala's leadership in celebrating the Muslim American community's freedom, diversity, and heritage through culture and stories. The American Sephardi Federation, a partner of the world's foremost center for Jewish history in New York, preserves, promotes, and perpetuates the history, traditions, and rich mosaic culture of the greater Sephardic Jewish communities, which includes Azerbaijan's Kafkazi or mountain Jewish community. We are honored to be joined today by members of the Azerbaijani diaspora, Manny, our friends and partners in the Moroccan Americans in New York, and our colleagues in the Conference of Presidents of major American Jewish organizations. Today is the Jewish holiday of Purim, which commemorates the attempted annihilation of the Jewish people. Queen Esther and her uncle Mordecai's creativity and courage miraculously prevented Haman's genocidal conspiracy from succeeding. Purim's commemoration is typically marked by merriment, but for the Azerbaijani Jewish community, the public celebration is subdued this year in solidarity with their compatriots who collectively experienced the Khojaly tragedy or massacre 29 years ago today. It takes time to heal and to develop the strength to laugh at adversity, as is a key message of the Purim celebration. Now, as the Azerbaijani refugees finally return home, perhaps in the future, this day will become a celebration of the resilience and rebirth of Khojaly and Karabakh as a whole, a most fitting memorial to the 613 victims. 613 is a special number in Judaism, called Taryag, and it represents the number of mitzvot or commandments that Jews must observe. If you look into the writings of the Hakamim or the Sephardic sages, the purpose of the mitzvot are to benefit humanity, to make people more sensitive to each other, and in so doing, to serve God. It can be argued that the atrocity we are commemorating today, that extinguished 613 innocent Azerbaijani lives, did the opposite. It sowed discord and dissent amongst people. But we are here showing the world that despite this tragic loss, we want to work together to overcome oppression and build bridges with Christians, Muslims, Hindus, and all people of conscience in memory of these Taryag people. Here we are of different religions and different ethnicities finding unity and common ground that the perpetrators of Khojaly sought to destroy and deny to this day. We will now see a video clip featuring the testimonies of a Khojaly survivor, a Holocaust survivor, and a Somalilander genocide survivor from the past 2 years of events at the Center for Jewish History with Mala and Manny commemorating Khojaly.
The Khojaly tragedy experienced exceptional brutality, even though many of us may not know about it, or here we are to learn about it. We must realize that conflict in parts of the world we may not be familiar with do have the potential to deeply impact our lives. Quite often, we remain in ignorance of victims of conflict and turmoil.
We found those pictures from our other relatives. By chance, who were not living in Khojaly, they used to visit us in Khojaly, and then they had our relatives' pictures. In different times, they shoot together. So we found those pictures through those relatives. So we couldn't take our pictures. We couldn't take anything. I remember my uncle just suddenly came, and it was like around 11, 12 o'clock. He told me, we have to leave. They just entered. And he gave me piggyback. I couldn't even take my shoes. Just like we entered to the forest, and in the forest, it's a dark, rainy, snow-cold forest. People started screaming, kids, youngers, and the first clash with the organized, armed soldiers started. And there I lost a lot of my family members, relatives, and actually in Agdam, which is the city which is 15 kilometers away from Khojaly, I found out that those guys are missing, and they are still missing.
Occupation of Azerbaijani territory, for instance, is causing suffering for countless people to this very day. I hope you will join me in remembrance of the massacre and recognition of the ongoing suffering, and hoping for a fair and lasting solution to the conflict in the Southern Caucasus.
Try as an Azerbaijani community in universities and different organizations to sit in round table to discuss, because hate and aggression never be solve any problem.
We really have to be participants, and we have to be physically active. I had a demonstration of what's happening tonight, and there are certain things that cannot be eradicated. Give an example: anti-Semitism, hatred, ideology. Okay, the only thing that we can do it, guns will not destroy it. It's only through education.
Nothing can prevent this from happening again, unless all of us join our efforts in commemorating this tragedy, honoring its victims, and standing up against xenophobia with a unified message of tolerance, coexistence, and peace.
I've learned something new that I did not know, which I will incorporate, in my presentation, because people do not know, like a lot of people do not know about the Uyghur people. Obviously, they do not know what happened in Azerbaijan. So I'm very honored because every single day we can learn something.
Now, my honor to introduce Abuzar Sade, who is an award-winning, internationally renowned Baku-born pianist, and composer, who has written a very moving piece in commemoration of the victims of Khojaly.
That was a very, very magnificent and profound piece. I have always emphasized that arts, music, culture, these define our heritage, they define our history. And by cultivating and nourishing the arts and by sharing our stories through these arts, it's a way for us to keep in memory and hold on to our culture and hold on to our sense and self identity. Today, I have the distinct honor of introducing Dadesh Mamadov to join me in a conversation. Dadesh, there's no words to really describe um, your work. You are the son of Nazim Mamadov, who is the pioneer of arts in Azerbaijan, a profound, prolific artist. You currently are the director of the Arts Council in Azerbaijan, and I would really love to just dive into your work and your father's work and his particular pieces that were made in reference to the Khojaly tragedy. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for inviting me to such an important conversation. It's a big honor for me to be with you, to join this evening, to be with you. Today I would like to tell you the story about how the collection of my father, Khojaly collection of my father, was created, how he created this, how he became to create such a big collection, because it's one of the, I would say, biggest collection in our country dedicated to the Khojaly genocide tragedy. He was a very patriotic person. Nazim Mamedov was as an artist, he tried to, in a difficult period in the 90s, he tried to say something. He wanted to scream, but he couldn't, because it was a war time, it was a difficult time, and he wanted to show his, how to say, through the art. He wanted
his emotions,
his emotions through the art.
Yes.
During the 10 years, he was day by day working on this collection, and starting from
for 10 years.
For 10 years, exactly.
For 10 years, he worked on this collection.
Yeah, from 1992, after the Khojaly, he couldn't stay. Every day he was working on that collection. Day by day, he, of course, as an artist, we used to, all artists used to draw different pictures, but he always was working on this collection. And I can say that as an artist, I can say that it's very difficult to create, to perform all these emotions on a canvas if you don't bring this into yourself. You know, when you do it, this feelings through yourself to draw, it's, you know, it's very difficult. As an artist,
This is one of my favorite pieces. And I, you know, we will share this broadcast along with high resolution photos of these paintings because they are so powerful. I mean, every inch of it tells a different story. The colors, the faces, the aesthetics of this is just extremely, extremely invoking. What are the dimensions of these? What medium did he use?
That's oil on canvas,
Okay.
approximately 1 meter 60 to 80, 1 meter
Okay.
to 70. It's different sizes. The issue is when he was creating these pictures, he had a 2 times heart attack because he started to do research. He read a lot about the Khojaly. He was researching in from different sources. That time, internet, we didn't have internet because 90s, the beginning of the 90s, it was difficult to get any information. Only the newspapers, which are doesn't have proper photos. So he was researching during these 10 years, and at last, on 2002, dedicated to 10th anniversary of Khojaly, he organized exhibition, and that exhibition was in the National Museum of Art. He exposed 40 pictures. 40 pictures, it's quite a lot, because usually when you expose, when you do exhibition, exposition, it's only 20 pictures or 25 pictures. He exposed 40 pictures, and he wanted to express all his feelings, what he felt during these 10 years. And he wanted to show how he cried, how he been hurt. Like in his pictures, you can see these emotions. So after the exhibition, he presented all these 40 art pieces to the state. Today, this morning time, there was an exhibition, and our Minister of Culture visited that Museum National of Art, and there was all his works were exhibited today. So as every year, in Khojaly Day, the museum is exhibiting all these pictures.
Now, tell me a little about, I know that you had said that he spent 10 years making these and all the research that he had done around Khojaly. Aside from Baku, the paintings are housed in Baku?
Yes, they're in, they belonging to state, but I'm as a son of him, and I have some rights for some pictures. I mean, as a representative, I have some rights, and I used to get permission. I already get permission, and I used to take some copy of his works, or initial, initial sketches, or before the drawing, he had big sketches. So I have originals of them, so I can expose them abroad. By support of Leila Aliva, I used to already take them out of country and exhibit them in Sarajevo, in Bosnia and Herzegovina. During the meeting, when there was a, Bosnia also has a tragedy in Srebrenica. So there was organized event, and I take all those pictures out of country and exhibit them there. So it was quite a big event, and show our voice to the different countries.
Well, you are certainly keeping his legacy and his memory alive. Just simply by sharing I could see how much of his passion has come through to you. And some of these paintings, we absolutely have to coordinate an exhibition here in the United States, because I saw these paintings, and it invoked a lot of human emotions of, they're universal pictures of loss and a reminder of humanity. Tell me a little bit about some of the projects that you're currently working on to promote the Azerbaijani diaspora, the arts, the beautiful heritage of the country, the people. Tell me a little bit about some of the incredible work that you're doing, so we could all, also learn about it.
I can tell you a few projects which I already done it, and doing this, still doing some in this type of projects. It's one of them is my book about that art which my father drew. I'm an art critic. In the meanwhile, I'm artist and art critic. So I made a monography, it's a book about my father and his artworks. So it's called Khojaly Scream.
It's called what?
Khojaly Scream.
Okay.
So it was 2010 I published that book, but now I'm working to publish that in different languages, like in English, French, etc. Also, few years ago, I heard that French artist start to draw about the Khojaly, and he had some pressure because France, has always powerful diaspora by our neighbors. So he was asking me about it. He was telling me about his pictures, and I invited him to Baku and organized for him exhibition. So every year since, I would say, last uh, 5 6 years definitely, I exhibiting my father's work and this French artist Renaud Balzinger's artworks. So he also made a collection, 10 art pieces, which are in Baku, and we used to exhibit them as well. As a foreigner, as a our tragedy by the eye of the foreign artist. Also, main aim of Art Council of Azerbaijan is promoting the art and culture in our country and abroad. So we cooperating with the diaspora. We try to support them with any type of art, in any events. So we're always open to cooperate, and we support government with our our community of artists and musicians, artists, all type of we have all different type of artists which are cooperating.
All
So
the masterpieces.
yes, we have
All the
collection of art,
masterpieces.
a big collection of art we used to share with it. So
No, this is so beautiful for you to be able to share this, and especially your father's story. We will definitely love to share the link to the book for some of our viewers to also have access to it. So we can include it on the follow-up after this webinar, and when we share it with everyone on how they can have access to the book, where they can purchase it, and where they can learn more about your father's legacy. He was the Walt Disney of Azerbaijan, and then on top of that, the
yeah,
work that he did around the Khojaly tragedy that's like Picasso's blue period. Like, this is
yeah,
just, it's such a profound collection of pieces that I
yeah.
encourage everybody to see them, and hopefully we can bring them here in the United States.
Great. My father loved Picasso, but he created his own style. What he
Yes.
did, he made some combination of Picasso and Azeri miniature. He combined it together and create his own style. When you see the pictures of Nazim, you say, "Oh, it's Nazim," because it's not Picasso. It's not a miniature. It's something his style. So and also when he after 90s, when he made a cartoon, he made a political cartoon called Caravan. He used all that his pictures, and he tried to show all those hurts which he wanted to show all those feelings in that cartoon, in animated cartoon. I will send you that link. It's called Caravan. It's
Oh, that would be
quite
beautiful.
quite
We would love to share this.
yeah, it's quite contemporary a little bit, like with philosophy. So it might be interesting to you to watch it. And also we have a cartoon, Azerbaijani cartoon animation museum named after
Yes.
Mamedov. So we created such a museum, and now we're working on it's a virtual museum, but we are working now with we're collaborating with the to create a physically place where will be cartoon museum of Nazim Mamedov.
Well, Nazim Mamadov is a legend, and to be speaking with his son today, Dadesh, thank you so much. It truly has been an honor and a privilege. And again, we will be sharing the paintings, the images that you had shared. And I really cannot wait to work with Jason on putting together a live exhibition of these paintings, because your father really, really, really left his mark in this world through his art. So, again, thank you for sharing
Thank you very much.
his story. Now, our next distinct guest is New York-based artist Nargis Aliyarova, and she is an international pianist and a professor. She had her first concert at the age of 9, and she has been on stage as a soloist, collaborative musician, as well as a performer with chamber and symphonic orchestras in over 40 cities around the world. Her repertoire includes music ranging from Baroque to contemporary. But we have one of the finest Azerbaijani diaspora musicians here today in conversation. She was also awarded a diploma for outstanding contribution to the legacy of Chopin, and she has produced 5 CDs, 3 of which were released by the Belgian recording company, etc. Now I will play just a snippet of her profound, profound music, and we will then bring Nargis on the stream to have a chat. Thank you so much, Nargis, for sharing that clip and that video of you playing. Welcome.
Thank you. First of all, I just wanted to say how I am grateful to the American Sephardi Federation and Mala for organizing this event. It's heartening to see people outside of Azerbaijan care about what happened there in like 29 years ago. So thank you very much for organizing this celebration. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's our commitment and our obligation as communities to stand together for humanity, for us to say never again, for us to hold ourselves accountable, our leadership accountable, so such atrocities never happen again. You're continuing the passion, the work. Tell me a little bit about how this particular piece has tied in remembrance with the Khojaly tragedy.
Well, this piece, first of all, the name of the piece, the Ballad about the Motherland, it means a lot for me. It's especially now when I am away from Azerbaijan. I'm in New York. Almost 4 years ago, I moved to United States. So, and this piece is very, it's by music, by name. It reminds me the Azerbaijani tale, kind of very tragic and very, in the same time, very beautiful. So it's how I see that.
Tell me about why it's so important for the global community to be aware of Khojaly, but also how your work has tied in with preserving the heritage of Azerbaijan. Like, let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, people all over the world must know and remember this terrible event in order to be able to prevent acts of ethnic cleansing from happening in the future. This is very important. The torture, rape, and massacre of women and children of Khojaly, which took place in 1992, particularly was before the eyes of the whole world. And we can prevent this from happening again if we join our efforts in commemorating this tragedy and honoring its victims, standing up for tolerance and coexistence and peace. And it's very important to know that for last 200 years, the Azerbaijani people were constantly subject to ethnic cleansing by Armenian nationalists. Mm-hmm. Azerbaijanis were expelled from their historical lands, become refugees and international displaced persons. And all of this was accomplished by massacres. Most notable was in March 1918. Over 12,000 Azerbaijani Muslims and Jewish were massacred during the attack of Armenian Dashnak student movement. And the last major expulsion occurred in 1988 when 250,000 Azerbaijanis living in their historical lands were expelled from what is now Armenia. And as a result, Armenia turned into a mono-ethnic state. Armenian leaders have rehabilitated Georgi Nje and continue to promote his fascist anti-Semitic ideology. So it's very important to tell to the world, so it shouldn't be happen. The Holocaust tragedy and the Khojaly tragedy should never, ever happen again. And Azerbaijani people shouldn't live, and then they don't live with hate. You know, this is very important. We are ready to live in peace with Armenian people, this whole world. So the peace and tolerance, that's the future of our world. And then
That's really been a cornerstone of your career as well. You've been named, you were declared the honored artist of the Azerbaijan Republic. You were recognized in Germany. You are a doctor of art and professor as well. Can you tell, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how through the course of your career, you've intersected arts and humanities through the course of your professional career, because I just think it's so profound how you're able to do the arts, the humanities, and intersect it with the music, and then also have that pride in your heritage and be the, you know, the source of pride and the name of recognition for Azerbaijan. I think that's beautiful.
thank you very much. Generally, as a musician, I might be not really objective because I really love music, but I'm more than sure that this is the most important language human created ever. Because this language, I mean, music language, it's an international language. I mean, no one should be translated to understand it. So it is
Transcends boundaries and languages.
Yes, yes. It's
Absolutely.
music. It's just you know, it's a language which talks souls with souls. So it's bring people together, and that was actually my goal when I came to United States, and then I was sure that United States, especially New York, as you know, all a very multinational place, and I was really surprised that in spite of the people living together here, and they not really know well each other's culture, music, and that become my goal. And then our society, which already 3 years, we registered 3 years ago in New York, National Music and Global Culture Society. In its name, already you can see the mission, the goal, that through introduction of national music, folk music, and then classical music of different countries to US society, we try to bring together people because if you know person, if you know the culture, if you know ethnicity, if you know the a little history of the people, then you are more open, kind of. You can communicate with those people. So each time before the concert, which we make different, like we had, for example, Norwegian music, we introduced African American composers, and we introduced Russian composers, and for sure Azerbaijani composers. Each time I try to give a little introduction about the history of the country, about the musical history, and about the general geographical and knowledges about the country which we introduce, which music we introduce actually. And another concert we also plan to make Silkway. It's a few countries culture in Kennedy Center next year, and then we will play music of Azerbaijani, Iran, and Turkish composers.
That's wonderful. And that's the National Music and Global Culture Society, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, and we will be sharing the link also with everybody who is tuning in, so they could learn more about this incredible organization that you're a part of, the incredible work that you're doing, not just in New York, but nationally and globally.
Can I remind you one? The one big project we started already. It's a international competition, composers competition, named after great Azerbaijani composer Üzeyir Hacıbeyli, who brought classical music to Azerbaijan. So we have a competition where composers has to write music on the melody of Üzeyir Hacıbeyli. That's very interesting because imagine, for example, Japanese composer making his music on the melody of Azerbaijani composer. So through that collaboration, we try to bring together the cultures and bring together the people, and then just spread knowledge about the competition about the Üzeyir Hacıbeyli himself, and I mean it's a just collaboration of different cultures, kind of.
Yes, and it really puts the beauty and the profound culture and heritage of Azerbaijan and so many different sectors of arts in the forefront. I think that's just so beautiful. It's the land of fire.
Yes, land of fire, yeah.
The land of fire, and hence so much beauty within that. Nargis, thank you so much for joining this conversation. I know that there is so much that we can continue talking about on this. Your compilation piece was absolutely beautiful, and we will be sharing it with the audience in its proper link. But it really, truly has been an honor to just talk to you and learn about your work. And I know you're making Azerbaijan, but also the United States proud. So again, thank you so much for joining us this evening or this afternoon for this.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me.
Of course.
I'm honored to be here.
I will pass the mic on now. I hope that this was an enlightening conversation that highlights the need and the necessity to cultivate arts as a way to bring forth issues that are very difficult to talk about, such as genocide, such as loss of lives, such as the impact of intergenerational trauma when it comes to such kinds of atrocities and losses. I do want to reintroduce Jason Guberman to wrap up the conversation. But again, thank you so much, Jason, for allowing us this opportunity to talk and to have, we could go on for hours when it comes to arts, culture, heritage, storytelling, and really commemorating our own ethnic pride and our sense of identity through arts and through culture. So again, thank you again so much for this opportunity. I think this meant a lot.
Yes, thank you, Zainab. And I want to also thank all the members of the Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations and our friends at the Embassy of Azerbaijan for joining us today, along with, as I mentioned earlier, the Moroccan Americans in New York and members of the Azerbaijani diaspora. We will now hear from a member of the Azerbaijani diaspora who is a student at George Washington University, and she will be introducing Hakam Rabbi Dr. Eli Abadi.
Hi everyone, my name is Sephardi. I'm currently doing a PhD at the George Washington University in Washington, D.C. So I'm greeting you all from Washington, D.C. I'm also one of the active members of Azerbaijani diaspora here in the United States. It's my pleasure to participate in this event, and taking this opportunity, I would like to thank the organizers of this event for commemorating the victims of Khojaly Massacre and remembering and acknowledging such a tragic event in Azerbaijani history. It's also my honor to introduce one of our distinguished guests, Dr. Hakam Raya Abadi, who will say blessings for victims of the Khojaly Massacre. I would like to give a brief information about his background. Dr. Hakam Raya Abadi comes from a long and distinguished rabbinical lineage dating back to the 15th century, Spain and Provence. Dr. Abadi was born in Beirut, Lebanon, and grew up in Mexico City before settling in the United States. Following in the footsteps of the greatest Jewish scholar and philosopher Moses Maimonides, he is both a rabbi and a physician. Dr. Abadi maintains a practice in gastroenterology and he's fluent in English, Spanish, Hebrew, Arabic, French, as well as conversant in Italian and Portuguese. He serves on the board of the American Sephardi Federation as the director of the Jacob E. Safra Institute of Sephardic Studies at Yeshiva University, head of the School of the Sephardic Academy of Manhattan, and founder and leader of the Manhattan East Synagogue, Congregation Shera Mizrah. Dr. Abadi is a recipient of the Jerusalem Medal, Orden del Mérito Civil, the highest civil decoration by His Majesty Juan Carlos I of Spain, and many other commendations. Dr. Abadi is the senior rabbi of the Jewish community of the Emirates. Dr. Abadi is also now the rabbi of the Association of Gulf Jewish Communities. It's my honor to give the floor to Dr. Abadi. Thank you.
טוב שמשמן טוב ויום המוות מיום ולידו סוף דבר הכל נשמע את האל מרב את מוסותיו שמור כי זה כל האדם יעלזו חסידים בכבוד ירננו על משכבותם. A good name is better than good oil, and the day of death is better than a day of birth. At the end of the world, everything shall be heard. Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the entire purpose of mankind. The pious will exult in glory, they will sing praises on their resting place, a rightful place, a high abode, together with holy and pious people. Like the righteous of heaven, they shall shine and enlighten. With physical rest and atonement of inequities and distancing of transgressions, compassion and grace from the Most High for a good portion in the world to come. There shall rest the souls of the noble and good names of 613 martyrs of the Khojaly Massacre. The King of Kings shall be merciful to them and shall be graceful and compassionate to them. The King of Kings shall protect them under his shadow and house them in his tent, to be in his presence of the Lord and to visit his palace. And at the end of days he shall revive them, and from the stream of his delights he shall give them to drink. And may their souls be bound in the bond of everlasting life, and their resting place shall be honored, and God shall be their salvation. And they shall be accompanied by peace, and their dwelling shall be peace. As it says, peace be upon them, they shall rest upon their dwelling places. And all the children of that people that dwell with them, together with compassion and mercy, and let us say, Amen.